Hello everyone, this is Group 10 and our topic for this assignment is Innovation, Attribution, and Appropriation. At your convenience, we have provided a QR code that links directly to the transcript. Team members. Introduction. When one thinks of innovation, they picture some genius who has invented the next big thing that will take mainstream media by storm. These breakthrough inventions are often coupled with a classic backstory of determination, preservation, and hard work to get recognition. But what if the true story of their innovation was founded from the ideas of others while credit is never to be given? This is where attribution and appropriation come into play. The principle of attribution is giving credit and recognition to the creator of an idea. It is a key form of design justice to protect creators against having their work stolen for the benefit of others. In a work setting, this accreditation will cover all aspects of their contribution within a project. According to the Cone School of Business, appropriation is the method of borrowing ideas, images, content, identity, sounds, and symbols from others. In certain circumstances, appropriation can be viewed as ethically acceptable, but in others, it is considered downright theft. The Interaction Design Foundation published that the appropriation of design is encouraged by new sales and tapping into potentially new markets. Things get tricky when the dynamic of having those in power leads from individuals in lower positions, especially marginalized groups. This, of course, still occurs within design practices, norms, and institutions. It slowly becomes clear that innovation is not as original as it may seem. As author Sasha Costanza-Chalk states, innovation is iterative, with changes that come from the needs and solutions of its users. The users within marginalized groups tend to have an advantage in this field in relation to the matrix of domination, yet they are not hired nor promoted to those key jobs. Instead, their socio-technical innovations are appropriated without attribution for attention and profitability. This also extends to media and cultural innovations, where social movements, led by activists within marginalized groups, fuel those industries. Attribution is crucial because innovators deserve to have their efforts and labor be recognized, especially when it is used for the capital benefit of organizations. Without a system of attribution, appropriation of innovations will come at the expense of those unknowingly providing free labor to fuel socio-technical, attention, cultural, and media economies. History.
Innovation, attribution, and appropriation have always had issues historically in design. Today we delve deeper into these subjects to see why it is so. Appropriation has long been an issue within the design community. While there is no clear origin of appropriation in design, one of the main types of appropriation in design is cultural appropriation. In Cultural Appropriation in Design and the Cipher by Berka-Yagiz observes that when elements of a certain culture are physically or conceptually removed from their local context, their original meaning is altered. In another article, Molly Wong of Design Week in the UK talks about how this is a practice that waters down other cultures for Western profit. Based on these two sources, we can infer that appropriation in design is not a new concept to the world. And as of now, those who get affected are populations that Western influence tries to appropriate by implementing their culture into Western designs, such as Native Americans and other cultures that are minorities. One example that I found throughout the internet was Urban Outfitters and Navajo culture being poached, and their designs being altered slightly and put on t-shirts for money and sold under the label Urban Outfitters, with no recognition of Navajo culture. Attribution in design is defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary as the ascribing of a work as of literature or art to a particular author or artist. Attribution in design is one of the earliest concepts in design. People have been attributing artists to their work since the Roman times. Attribution in digital design is something that has recently been up and coming in the past couple decades. As the internet grew larger, basic attribution was no longer suitable, as those with a larger following could garner false attribution to something through a mass amount of people from something that could have been taken from someone with little or no exposure. Innovation has been something that humanity has always striven for. Humans have always found the need to innovate in order to progress further as a species. When it comes to design, innovation is no different. We are always looking for ways to innovate and move forward as designers. Unfortunately, while anyone can innovate, innovation is usually done by those with wealth or a higher socioeconomic status due to the abundance of available resources. With that being said, historically, those who belong to the lower class and minorities are less likely to be innovators or be attributed with innovation due to their lack of standing within the community. In Design Innovation by Bilge Mutlu and Alpay the author says this theory dates back to the early studies on the capital system, which at the beginning of the 17th century gave importance to the use of new discoveries for social wealth. This supports that innovation was starting around the 17th century for the purpose of pursuing socioeconomic wealth.
Summary of design developments.
A major development would be that the Metropolitan Museum of Art began an open access policy where they made digital images of artworks in their collection available for unrestricted commercial and non-commercial use, which is free of charge. This is great because they have been uploading high-resolution images from various cultures, which would hopefully reduce any negative appropriation within digital design. Some other examples of inclusive design are things like text-to-speech for hearing impaired people and colorblind modes in video games for people who are colorblind. These options make sure everyone can have access to those things in one way or another. In terms of any movements related to our topic, the main movements are towards making sites more inclusive for users, which relates to innovation by getting the sites to also be accessible by all groups. To do this, designers are starting to design with rather than for people. This way, no group of people can be left behind when designing something online. Another way teams are tackling this issue is forming more diverse teams when working on a project and when they conduct user testing to make sure they include people of all cultures to make sure they didn't have any missteps or leave someone out. Something designers also need to be aware of is they can use ADA guidelines to examine how your physical spaces either enable or inhibit people's participation. The ADA helps designers know what they need to avoid and what to include so that their design is accessible to all people and avoids any type of cultural appropriation.
Explanation of the future.
Recent studies are showing that technological innovation will depend heavily on the role of laborers and the effects of wealth inequality going forward. In the article, Technology and the Future of Growth, Challenges of Change, technological innovation so far is showing to be causing a wider gap in income inequality and contributing towards working class fears that jobs will be lost due to the rise of automation. This mass insecurity over the loss of jobs to automation will mean that in the future, companies are going to have to decide how they will attribute their developments and their profits to workers, at least enough to incentivize those to work for them after the labor markets have shortened. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it's also being discussed that innovation needs to be more resilient and focused than it has been currently. According to the Forbes article, How COVID-19 is Shaping the Future of Innovation, leaders are aiming to develop service lines and processes that are flexible enough to handle society-wide disruptions like the COVID-19 pandemic. This points in a direction where innovation focuses more so on HR and training workers to be more flexible with changes and being open to incorporating new technologies into their workflow. When taking this information into account, it seems more evident that as of recent, companies are under more scrutiny to provide better work environments for their workers, and if the future doesn't head in a direction similar to that, then companies will face even more discrimination and more criticism from the general public.
Incorporation of accessible design. To ensure that our video is inclusive for all users, we made sure to include a wide variety of accessibility features. We have provided captions and a full transcript so that viewers can get full access to all spoken audio content. Clear audio is provided with minimal background noise and lowered music so that the speakers can be heard without any major distractions. All displayed images have captions which, according to CSUN's Universal Design Center, has the benefits of ensuring everyone has equal access to them. There are no animations or flashing content to avoid overwhelming viewers with intrusive imagery. As cited from the University of Washington, these can also cause seizures in susceptible individuals. When picking out our color palette, we wanted to go with something that had good contrast while also being colorblind friendly. Lastly, our media player provided by YouTube supports other accessibility features. According to the checklist provided by w3.org, these are interactive transcripts, displaying captions, and changing the speed of the video. Again, we made sure to cover a good set of features to ensure that our video can be accessible for all. To keep the trend going, we want to give full attribution to our work cited. Thank you so much for watching. We hope that you were able to take away new knowledge about innovation, attribution, and appropriation. Take care.